to have Grace Johnson with us. I was trying to think about what it was that I would share with you about her. Those of you who have been at Grace for some time, you know her. She's not new to you. In fact, I've known her and her family now for 20 years, I would say, going on 20 years. And what I would say about Grace is this. You know, I often say that all of us want to be strong in our faith, but few of us ever want to be put in a position where we have to exercise our faith muscles. And Grace is one of the most faithful people I know. She is gentle and she is kind, and God has used her life in ways that have touched hundreds and thousands of people, children and adults alike. I've had the good fortune to be with her here for many years, and even to visit her and her husband in their place of ministry in India. There are just very few people in the world that I know that are really are just as faithful and good and true as Grace is. So this morning, as she comes to share, I want you to just open your hearts and your minds. I want you to hear what she has to say, and as she shares her life and God's Word with you, I want you to just be in a space where you can hear it and receive it and be challenged to grow in your own faith. So, without any further ado, would you give Grace Johnson a big grace welcome as she comes to this?
Praise the Lord. I'm so happy to be here. I come almost every year. I was here last year in the month of the same time, on Mother's Day actually. I was so blessed that I thought I should come here again on Mother's Day. It's really a pleasure to be here. I love this church, and Pastor Vincent and Katinka and the family, they take so good care of me. I really think this is my family. So I have a family over here in the US, and I also have a family in India. I'm so proud of this church. I really thank God that for all your prayers and support, and you have really blessed our ministry. So I really want to thank all of you. And as you saw in the video, you might have understood a bit of the kind of ministry that we do. And some of the older people over here, they know me, and they know some of the places where we minister and some of our stories. But just for the new ones who have come to this church, I just want to give a short introduction. I'm sorry I don't have a map of India, but India is a big country, and we belong, I and my family, really hope. Right then. So we belong down south of India, from the state of Kerala. I mean, you can see that blue, the dark blue on one side, and it says Kerala, so we belong to that place. And let me tell you about India. Every state in India has a different language, a different culture, a different people. And if you just go, you can see the dark blue, and then you can see the light blue, which says Tamil Nadu. If you go from Kerala to the next state, Tamil Nadu, it's like going to another country. Okay, because it's not like people from New Jersey going to Atlanta and still you have the same language. It's English, but it's not like that. You go to the next state and it's a language which you just do not understand, and the people and culture. And so we are right down from there, from Kerala, and the Lord called us for ministry to West Bengal, to a place called Jalpaiguri, which is right on the eastern side. Can you see it written Bhutan over there? And Bhutan is another country, but we just live at the border of Bhutan in West Bengal. So we have crossed all these states and gone right up there. And it's again a different language, a different culture, and a different people. And this was actually the Holy Spirit that led us to go there. When we sat for a fasting and prayer, my husband, he got this vision, and the Lord spoke to him about this place, Jalpaiguri. And he just saw that in his vision. And let me tell you, we just did not know where this place is in India, because in India we really do not know all the states. We've never been to all the places. And we had to buy 2 or 3 maps of India and bring it home and do a study to find out where exactly this place Jalpaiguri is. And then we found out that it is right there close to the Bhutan border. And that's how we went to this place. We knew nothing about this place, but when the Lord spoke to us, right when we were down there in South India, and the Lord spoke to us and gave us this vision, we just decided to blindly trust the Lord and go ahead on this journey. And we went to this place, and while we were going, I asked my husband, where do you think we are going to stay? In whose house are we going to stay? Because we know no one over there. Where are you going? And the answer my husband said is, if you trust the Lord, and if the Lord has called us to this place, just follow me, and we might have to sleep under a tree. Just get ready for that. I said, okay. So I prayed and said, Lord, increase my faith. And let me tell you, when you pray that, be careful, because the Lord is really going to test your faith if you do that. And so we started our journey in a train, and in the train, I just asked a person sitting on my side, I said, hey, you know something about Jalpaiguri? And this person said, yes, I know, I've been to that place so many times. I said, what, you know about that place? And this person says, it's a place full of forest and jungle, and there are wild animals that come out every night, every day. I said, Lord, my husband says I have to sleep under a tree. And wild animals, they're not going to leave me alive. So I thought, I better not talk to this person, because I'll be upset and I'll have to maybe get down the next station and go back to South India. So I went to the next person on the other side and I asked him, now do you know something about this place, Jalpaiguri? And this person says, yes, I know. And I was so happy that I'm going to hear something so good. And this person says, it's a place full of terrorists and robbers and people who can just rob you and kill you. Oh my goodness, how's it possible? I said, Lord, if I'm staying in a house, no one will rob me, because if someone knocks, I don't have to open the door. But I'm not going to stay in 4 walls, I'll be sleeping under a tree. So I thought, Lord, now I'm going to speak to the third person, and I want to hear something good about this place. I went to this third person, and the third person says, yes, I know about Jalpaiguri. The only thing is, when you go to that place, if anyone offers you some tea, don't drink tea. I said, why? Because you can get poisoned. You know, they put poison in your tea. So I said, why do they want to poison me? So they said, it's because, you won't die if you have that poison, but you will fall unconscious and you will open your eyes only after 3 days. And they would just rob you completely. And I said, just thought to myself, I better not talk to anyone more, because there's nothing good about this place. And I just spoke to my Lord and I said, Lord, is there nothing good about this place? You're calling us to such a place where there's nothing good and positive? And the Lord just told me, trust in the Lord. So let me go ahead with my message. If I start telling you all the stories, I think I'll have to sit and say the whole time. I've got hundreds and hundreds of stories to tell you. But let me tell you what I have prepared for today. And along with the message, I would share some of my experiences with you. And the portion I've taken for today is from Isaiah chapter 55 and verses 8 and 9, where it says, I'll just read that to you. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, nor are your ways my ways, says the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. This is a verse that I think about 2 weeks back, when I was just sitting here in the US itself, sitting in a house and praying, the Lord gave me this verse. And I started thinking seriously about it. And you know what came to my mind? Yes, we, human beings, we have thoughts which are just up to this level, you know. It will not go higher than this. We cannot think. You know, there is a limit for our thinking. But here God says, my thoughts and my ways are higher than your ways. We sometimes try to limit God into our thoughts and into our ways and our intentions. But God says, no, I'm much, much higher than that. You cannot, limit me into your thoughts. The first thing I want to tell you about God's ways is that His ways are unusual ways. His ways are unusual ways. You and I have something which is called usual, a usual thought, a usual way of thinking. But God's ways are unusual. And the example which I want to give you is from Exodus chapter 14. Again, I will just tell you the story that's written over there. You know the story where God tells Moses to bring out the Israelites from Egypt, from the bondage, and to take them to the promised land. And now they have to go through the wilderness, and they have to travel and follow Moses and go to the promised land. And as they go, they went a little forward, and they look behind, and they see, oh, the Egyptian army is behind them. And they have all the weapons. And they are on their chariots. And they are going to come to kill them because they left Egypt and went. And the Egyptians, they get scared. And they start murmuring and they turn to Moses, why did you bring us out of Egypt? It was better for us to live there as slaves. But now they're going to kill us. So they think, okay, come on, let's run forward. They go a little ahead and they see, oh, we cannot go ahead because the Red Sea is in front of us. They look back and the Egyptian army is there to kill them. They look ahead and the Red Sea, we cannot cross it. How do we go? And then they start murmuring. This is what sometimes happens to you and me. We come into certain difficult situations where we do not know how to get out of the situation. We cannot run back. We cannot run forward. We just do not know which way to go out. We try to think the human way. Can I do this? Can I do that? And if there's no way, hey, I better end my life because I cannot go ahead in my life. But the way of God is higher than your ways. His thoughts are unusual thoughts. He can make a way for you where there is no way. What did He do for the Israelites? When they started murmuring, God told Moses, tell them and it says over there, Moses tells them, the Egyptians that you see today will not be there tomorrow. What? How can it be? The Israelites are afraid and they're murmuring because they think they are not going to be tomorrow because the Egyptians are going to kill them. And if they go ahead, the ocean will cover them and they're going to drown. But here is Moses saying, in faith, God will open a way for you. And the Egyptians that you see today, that means the problems that are before and behind you and ahead of you, the Lord will take away all the problems and He will make a way for you. Can you and I trust the Lord? Yes, we need to trust the Lord. And we just see ahead in the story, what does Moses do? He just stretches forth the rod and the sea is divided. And the Israelites walked through dry ground. They couldn't imagine, we as men cannot imagine that God could open a way in that difficult situation. But His ways are higher. His ways are unusual ways. The sea that is before you, the sea that is ahead of you, the difficult situations ahead of you, He can divide that and make you walk through dry ground. You will be a surprise to your neighbors. You will be a surprise to the people of the world. The people who are ready to see you die in your difficult situation, they will be surprised to see how God leads you out of your difficult situation. I say, may God has done so many things. As I told you in the beginning, the difficult area that we went into. There were times when we went there, and of course God did lots of miracles for us, but there were times when we thought, we will not be able to escape this situation. We will die. The people are going to kill us. But in those situations, the Lord saved us. Let me just, I think I've told this story once before, but those who have heard it, please forgive me, but I heard that there are many new people here. So for them, I just, for an encouragement, I want to share this story again of how once, just before we left the south of Kerala, the south of India, the Lord gave me a promise, and that's the promise that was read over here just before the service. Isaiah chapter 43, the first few verses that were read, and it says over there that I will be with you when you go through the waters. And it says when you go through the fire, I am there with you. I've read this verses so many times when I was in south of India, because in south of India, I want to tell you, we have all comforts and you can enjoy your life. There are big, big houses, mansions. We ourselves have a beautiful house of our own. And there's, I think, less poverty over there, and people are more educated over there. And I used to wonder about this verse. What does it mean that you go through the river and God is with you and you will be saved? And what does it mean that you go through fire and God is with you and you will be saved? But let me tell you, God put us into that situation where He wanted to prove to us that every verse of the Bible, every word of the Bible is true if you just trust Him. And sometimes He really puts your faith into test, and that's what He did with the Israelites. He wanted to test their faith, and He did that with my husband and myself. So once I was just crossing, and one of the villages actually you saw in the video where it's Totopara. That's one of our villages where we do ministry. And to go there, we had to cross 7 rivers to go there. And here's one day I was going with a young girl with me, and we were going for ministry over there. We were supposed to stay there for about 2 or 3 days and do ministry. And so we went in a jeep. It's a sharing jeep where lots of passengers can travel together. So we went in a jeep, and we had to cross these rivers. We crossed many of the rivers, and now we reached the 7th river that had to be crossed. You can go in the jeep through the waters if the water is manageable. So now we came to this last river, and the jeep just, the driver just stopped over there, and he says, I'm not going ahead. You can all get out of the jeep. So I said, hey, what? If you leave me here, what's going to happen? It's a forest area. There's no house here. Where do I go? And I was having this chat with him, and he said, no, I cannot there are flash waters coming and there's this undercurrent in the river, and so I cannot take my jeep ahead. So I said, no, don't leave me here. The wild elephants will come and kill me. And it was almost 6 o'clock in the evening. By 5 o'clock and 6 o'clock, the wild animals start coming out. I said, I cannot cross the river. I do not know to swim. Please do something for me. He says, I can do nothing for you. And by the time I had this big chat with him, I looked around to see where the other passengers were. No one was there. Everyone had crossed or swam. I don't know how they crossed. I was so afraid, and I was talking to this driver that I just forgot to see which method they used to go out. And in a few seconds' time, this man, he just drives back and goes somewhere. I don't know where he went. And now it's getting dark. How do I cross? I do not know to swim. I started crossing. And I just told this girl with me, come on, let's cross. And then we prayed. And as we crossed, I said, Lord, the Bible says of a story of how Peter walked over the water. Lord, allow me, please, do that miracle for me that I may walk over the water. And then I prayed and I said, Lord, the Bible tells the story of how the Israelites, how you divided the sea and the Israelites walked. None of my prayers worked. I said, Lord, I'm not here on a business. If I cross this river and go to that village, no one is going to pay me for what I'm doing. I'm just doing your ministry. And Lord, if you're not going to answer my prayer, how is it possible? I was in tears. I just told this girl, come on, let's cross. There's no way. If you stay back, we're going to be killed. You go ahead, again you're going to be killed. Let's just go in faith. And we went ahead. Now let me tell you, we walked a few steps into the river. It was a wide river. We walked a few steps and it looked fine. Okay, we could just go. But by the time we reached the middle of the river, the undercurrents were coming. And when the undercurrent comes, the ground below you, it will start running. The sand below your feet would be just flowing. The current would be taking that away, which means your feet would just go. You cannot walk anymore. And it's so strong that often what happens is, in that river, many animals are carried away, drowned, many people are carried away. And often the story behind that river is that people who are carried away, you would never even get their bodies, dead bodies. The river would just take it away and it would go and maybe fall into some ocean or somewhere. And slowly I saw we are being carried away by the river. And this girl, and I looked and I saw she was already 2 feet away from me. And I was also being carried. And let me tell you, I just said, for a minute, I closed my eyes and said, Lord, I commit my life into your hands. I thought I'm gone. So I just said my last prayer, Lord, I'm coming to you. My life is gone and I'm coming to you. And let me tell you, my husband was not there. And so, before that, when I said all those different prayers, I said, Lord, my husband is not even going to get my dead body. At least he will get my body. But now I committed myself in the hands of the Lord. And I tell you, sometimes, the Lord puts you in big, in big, difficult situations where He wants to test your faith. He just wants to see if you still trust Him. And the Lord just saw that I was still trusting Him. And the last sentence I could say was, Lord, I commit myself into your hands. It's no use of us cursing God. You just still love Him and trust Him. He opens the way for you. And let me just tell you, in a few minutes' time, I just found a hand come and hold me and pull me and drag me through the river and over the stones and to the side of the river and just put me there. I was all wet and shivering, and I was actually crying. But I just looked out and I saw where's the other girl, and I found another man pulling her up to the shore. Just before we were drowning, I looked around to see if I could scream and call somebody. There was nobody on both the shores. I don't know from where these two people came, and they dragged us and brought us to the side. And I was just weeping and shivering. And I thought to myself, and I opened my eyes and saw the feet of these people, and I thought, oh, I need to thank them. They've done something for me. So I just looked up at the face of these people to say a word of thanks. And I got the next shock of my life when I saw the face of that person who saved me. Because he was exactly the same person who about 3 months before that, he had come with a group of 20 or 25 men with swords and other things in their hands. And in the same village, these people had just come. And I still remember the face of that man who was about to stab me. He was about to kill me. And I looked at him and I said, I was going to say thanks. I had to pull back the thanks because I thought, he was going to kill me. But I tell you, when that man saw my shock, he just smiled. And then I said, thank you. And you know what he said? There was no reason for us to come to the shore of this river. But we just thought, okay, we'll see if the river is in good condition. We would cross the river and go to the next village. But when we came, we saw the currents and we decided we are not going to cross the river. And so we decided to go back. And just before going back, I just looked once again into the river and I saw 2 people being taken away by the water. And he says, so I turned back and I thought, oh yeah, this happens every day, people die and animals die. Someone is going, let him go, So I looked back and I was going to walk back, but again something made me look back. And I guessed it was you. They all called me, people over there just called me auntie. So I said, I looked and I shouted to my friend and I said, hey, it's the auntie. Which auntie? The same auntie that you were going to kill a few months back. You could have let her go, without you killing. She would have been drowned in the water. But sometimes God uses unusual ways to save you. That's what I want to tell you, my dear friends. You just trust in the Lord, go ahead. He has unusual ways. Sometimes the river might not divide and you may not be able to walk through dry ground. He has another way for you. He has another way for you. Just trust on to Him, I say. Now let me tell you, I still have just a few minutes, but I have 2 more points to say. I've just finished 1 point. That is the unusual way, where God opens a way when there is no way. Now I'll quickly go through the next 2 points, and I won't tell you any more stories. Okay. So the next point is the unexpected way. God has unexpected ways for you. And the example I want to take is from Genesis chapter 22. Again, you don't have to look into your Bibles. The story is about how Abraham and Sarah, they did not have any children, and they prayed, and then, God gives them a child, and the child is, in old age, they get a child. And they're so happy with the child. They love their son so much. But now in Genesis 22, we see that God tells to Abraham, I just read that to you, God tells to Abraham now, this boy has grown up, you should imagine, his childhood is over, he's grown up, and God is telling him, take now your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love so much, and go and offer him as a burnt sacrifice. I say, you and I would say, I mean, maybe you are good, but I would say, Lord, I waited for so many years and you gave me a son, and now you're telling me to sacrifice him as a burnt offering? You're such a cruel God. You're such a rude God. We would say that. But we see over here, Abraham says nothing. He just thinks God has given, and he has asked back, I will just do it. And he still trusted the Lord. And he went ahead. I want to quickly tell you, God was testing the fear now I know that you fear God, since you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me. You know, what was the meaning of God telling him, hey, take your son, go up the mountain and sacrifice him? But now here, when he's about to sacrifice, so you know, God was just watching his faith and the fear of God that he had. The fear of God made him to sacrifice his son who he loved so much, so he was about to kill the son. And that's where God provides. That's what I want to say. He provides. His ways are unexpected ways. You will not expect him to ask you to sacrifice your most beloved and your most interesting things. It may be your job that you love very much. It may be your spouse that you love very much. Maybe your kids that you love very much. But he might ask you, can you sacrifice that? He just wants to know if you're ready to do that. And I tell you, if you just say, yes, Lord, you know, it may be hard for you, but if you just say, yes, Lord, he's not a cruel God. He will provide for you. He will help you. He will bless you. Still, I'm so forced to tell you a story. Let me quickly say another story. When we were in ministry over here, as years passed by, now, you know, there were so many things that were, testing things that happened in our lives. God tested us in difficult situations that we had. Now, there was a time when my husband had to undergo a liver transplant. And many questions came up in my mind. I said, Lord, we left our house, we left our property in the south of India. We even sold our property and put almost more than half the money into the ministry that we are doing. When we had no support, we used all that money for God's ministry. We did so much for you. And now you put my husband into such a difficult situation where the doctor says he needs a liver transplant. And they said he may not live. I said, okay, if you do a liver transplant, will he live? And they say, there is no guarantee. Now he says, you need this much of money. Oh, it was a big amount, $50,000 you need. And here am I with no money, nobody to support, no relatives to support, no people, no government behind me, no bank behind me to support. Now I just leave that part of the story. That's another big story, but here what I'm trying to tell you is, now the doctor said, you have done ministry in West Bengal long enough. It's time for you to retire. So if your husband undergoes a liver transplant, you are not going to go back to West Bengal. If you go there, he will die. And if you love your husband, you should not take him back over there because there are no good hospitals or no good doctors over there. So you need to settle somewhere here in the south itself. Now this was a big, big decision that had to be taken. And I just went before the Lord and said, Lord, what do I do? The doctors are saying, if you love your husband, don't go for God's ministry. But I love my God, so I can't leave my God's ministry, nor can I leave my husband to die. What do I do? And that's when I was weeping and praying. The Lord came to me in a vision. And in the vision, the Lord had two of his hands like this, and he said, which do you want? You know, like we do to the kids. Which hand do you want? And I said, Lord, now tell me what's there. So he says, in this hand is the life of your husband, and in this hand is Jesus. Which do you want? It was hard for me to make a decision, because all these days it was God who led me. I had faith in God. How can I leave God? And I want my husband's life because I'm working in a difficult place, you know, in a jungle, and there are terrorists, robbers, and all kinds of drug addicts, and all kinds of people. I need him to be with me. I cannot go alone and work with them. So I said, Lord, I want both of them. In the vision, I see that he just leaves me and goes. After a little while, he comes up again and asks me the same question. Again, he goes, and the third time, he comes and he says, you can choose any one. You cannot choose both. I had to say, Lord, how is it? This is what happened to Abraham. You know, his beloved son, God is saying, go sacrifice. And now here he says, which do you not choose any one? With lots of tears, I said, Lord, I choose Jesus. If you want to take away the life of your husband, take it away. But I will not leave your ministry. I will not leave you. My dear friends, it's God who has given you a spouse. It's God who has given you a job. It's God, maybe, you know, God knows every situation you go through. Your sickness, your disease, whichever seems impossible for you. It's God who is. If you have God, you have everything. And so I decided I choose God. Let me tell you, it's now 4 years since the surgery is over and my husband is still alive and we still do God's ministry. He just wanted to hear that nice word from me saying, Lord, I give up my husband, but I need you. When I said that, he gave me back my husband's life and he gave me back the ministry. And in the last 4 years, you know, the life that my husband and I have led is a higher life of faith, where we have decided so many things that, you know, you will not even believe. But I tell you, the ways of God are higher. It is so high that, you know, if you just trust the Lord, I tell you, He will give you your heart's desire, and He will also bless you for taking such a big step of faith. I still have another point which I'm not going to explain, but I'll just tell you. The last is an unbelievable way of the Lord. The first was the unusual way, and the second was the unexpected way, and the third is an unbelievable way of the Lord. And that's just the story is about Lazarus. I hope you know the story of Lazarus, where he died and he was buried, and it was 4 days over after the burial. You know what happens after 4 days after burial? Go lift up the coffin and see. You know what? Lift up the grave and see. He would be decaying. Water would be oozing out from him. And that's where he does an unbelievable miracle. My God, he says, I don't care what you think. I have my own way. He says, Lazarus, come out. And he does the impossible. What you and I, human beings, we think impossible is possible with the Lord. I just want to take 2 more minutes where, you know, just 3 weeks back, I was in Syracuse and I attended a Bible class. I want to tell you what was there in the Bible class. It was a women's Bible class where I just went as a guest. I mean, not a guest, a visitor. I mean, I just went to listen to the Bible class. And, you know, the Bible class was about faith. And you know what was being discussed over there? It was said, now I want to tell you that because many of you might be thinking that way, so please listen carefully. The ladies who were sitting there, they said, you know, faith means that if God tells you to do something, you know, you should not jump into it. You should sit and think and use your brains and give some time and then take the decision. I could not sit there, but I was just sitting behind. I say that is the faith that you and I, human beings, earthly people, talk about, but that is not the faith that Bible talks, my dear friends. Bible doesn't talk of you using your brain. Do not be a rational man. Do not use your brains. Bible talks of a faith doctors might have told you don't move. But I say, no, God says move. Move ahead. That's what we did. My husband and I, we decided we are going to disobey the doctors. And we went back to West Bengal, where there are no doctors. No people to check. I mean, there are doctors over there, but no, specialists, no liver specialists. And he needs to be under the care of a specialist. And there were many other friends along with him, who were transplanted. And let me tell you, they all obeyed the doctors. And they all lived in good houses with 4 walls around them. Never stepped into any unhygienic places, and always stayed away from all the dirt and the diseases, and the public doctors had given lots of rules, do not go to public places and all that. But my husband and I, we disobeyed the doctors. We just obeyed the Lord. Let me tell you, almost all the friends of my husband who were transplanted and who obeyed the doctors and had the medicines in time and did everything, they are no more on this earth. The man who disobeyed the doctors but obeyed God. Let me tell you, of course he has his medicines, okay? I don't say tomorrow just leave your medicines, okay? Don't do that. He does have his medicines, but I say, he goes into the slum areas where he's not supposed to go. He prays for the people who have all kinds of epidemics, maybe people with tuberculosis, with jaundice, all kinds of diseases that you can name on earth is in our area because of people live in poverty and there's no hygiene and it's a difficult area. But I say, it's God who has to decide whether you need to live or not. Just trust the Lord. Give your heart to Him. Just believe Him blindly. He will do miracles.